But there's breaking news tonight in the shocking case of an unarmed African-American man who died after being handcuffed and then pinned to the ground by Minneapolis police. 4 officers have been fired tonight, and the FBI is investigating after cell phone video showed one of the officers with his knee on George Floyd's neck for at least 7 minutes, even after Floyd's body went limp. Tonight, protesters are gathering outside of the restaurant where it all happened, just a week after Minnesota lifted its stay-at-home orders. The incident comes as much of the country is grappling with the fallout of a Memorial Day reopening that saw many Americans not socially distancing. And at least 27 states are seeing increases in cases of COVID-19. And as we come on the air, the country is approaching 100,000 deaths from the virus. Tonight, nearly 99,000.
What's going on, guys? Give me just 1 second here. I want to find an actual story regarding this. And now I'm going to be honest with you guys. I've been so distracted by the Suzanne Morphew case and trying to find out as much of it as I can that I have not been paying much attention to this news as much as I should have been. Because this is obviously an issue, and I think that we all have opinions on it. And I'd really like to talk about it with you guys. And I realize this is a little early for me. And I'm, got the setup a little bit differently simply because I've got it's a lighting issue. I've got the window coming through here. That's as much as my blinds closed. So I apologize for the lighting issue. So I'm trying to position myself to where it's not as bad. So I hope it's not too irritating for everyone, any more irritating than I already am to you. So, yeah. And I think a lot of us are pretty angry about it, Marissa. And there's a lot of things about it to be angry about. It's not just racism. Racism is awful. Obviously, it's something that I don't think is ever going to go away, unfortunately. I mean, you're that's like, saying that, we hope ignorance is abolished altogether. It's just not going to happen. You're going to get stupid people. But we can actually make change when it comes to these type of people in power. It can be managed, and I don't think we're anywhere close to getting that done just yet, but we're in a very interesting time right now, because all of this happening right now, there's a lot of things going on in the world that are very, very interesting, and things that none of us have ever experienced, and people are looking at the world in a different way these days. And for something like this to happen during these times, people are already irritated. People are already short-tempered, and it's going to be a situation where people are going to demand justice. But what's funny is now we didn't see anything like this. What's strange is we didn't see anything like this as far as COVID-19 or the way the world is right now. We didn't see this happen in the 90s when there was the Rodney King incident. But we know what happened with the Rodney King incident, didn't we? The Rodney King incident had some interesting effects. What happened was these officers that were caught on video. When the Rodney King thing took place, this was the 90s. This was the early 90s when even having a camcorder or a videotape handheld recorder was a sign of was a luxury. It was not necessarily an everyday household item. I didn't have one growing up in my house. But if somebody had one, it was like, whoa, we got us a video cam recorder. Wow. It wasn't standard and something that every single person, no matter what their financial or social classes has in their pocket standard, you know. So it was a different time, but people were not going to stand for injustice. It just wasn't going to happen. People weren't going to stand for this. So you had these police officers who were caught on video just blatantly just beating this man. And everybody argued. There were people who argued, well, what they don't tell you is that Rodney King was a multiple felon and blah 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 blah. Well, that doesn't matter. There's a standard to be held for law enforcement. There's a certain behavior. If they're going to act as an authority above the rest of us, then they need to be held to the standard of behaving above the rest of us, to have more self-control, to be impervious to emotional response. If you're going to wear a badge and you're going to have that kind of responsibility, you are set to a standard. And what's funny is before I went on here, and I went on here just on a fly, like I said, guys, I never go on at this time. But what's strange is that I in a rush, I made my coffee and I'm sitting here and I'm trying to find news clips, but mostly what I'm trying to find is a backstory on George Floyd, and I couldn't find one. You know, I didn't look very hard. I did the best I could in a short period of time because I still have to go to work. But there's a system in place. Exactly, Hope Addis. There's a system in place. So we can't have police officers just doing whatever they want and whatever they feel like. You know, wearing a badge does not put you in a position of authority to where you are exempt from the rules. If anything, the rules apply to you more. The fact that they have not been arrested yet, Hope Addis, is infuriating to me. But I was trying to find, like I was saying, I was trying to find some sort of, all I could find was something here that says that he played high school football and that he works in a restaurant. You know, I believe he was 49. Let me see here. 46 years old. He was 46 years old. Now, guys, this is I'm going to show some footage here, guys. And this is a disclaimer. If you are if you're sensitive, if you are easily triggered, I do not recommend you watch this video, okay? But I'm going to show what it says here is the moments prior to Mr. Floyd's death. And then we're going to discuss it. This is from some surveillance footage. And here we see the police officer. And I'm going to look up this guy's name in a second, but I see him right here, seems to be doing some sort of traffic stop, but his car is not parked right behind here. So So now this video is about 5 minutes long, or at least from where I started it from. Now, and I'm also trying to find actually, let me just do that. Hold on here. Okay, so there seems to be obviously an altercation that's taking place here. More or less, he's telling everybody to stand up against the wall. Pretty standard procedure, at least that we see. I don't know what standard procedure for police officers are, but they seem to be pulling George out of the car right now. He doesn't seem to be resisting. He just seems to be asking questions here. And we don't see Officer Derek Chauvin, who is apparently the officer who and I don't think, hopefully this video doesn't actually show what actually happened. This is a video of moments prior. So what we're looking at right now seems to be a situation where George Floyd does not seem to be resisting. They're asking him questions. Now, I also read, and thumbing through as much information on this as I can find, I read that Minneapolis police have a horrendous record of unlawful shootings, and rumored to have a history of unlawful shootings and deaths and covering them up, which is not uncommon in certain police departments in certain cities. I didn't take Minneapolis to be one of those cities, but I've never been to Minneapolis, so I wouldn't know. Okay, so Caleb, you're saying that he used a $10 bill and the store owner called the police to report him passing counterfeit bills. Okay, and they seem to be taking him across the street. So what are they taking him across the street for? That doesn't make a lot of sense. But again, you know, there's no audio here. We don't know what's going on. Maybe they're taking him to the store. Oh no, they're just taking him to that squad car that's parked over there. And so he seems to be resisting to a certain degree. He seems to be saying, you know, I didn't do anything, you know, something to that effect. I'm guessing that's what he's saying. Maybe it wasn't the case. Maybe it wasn't a case where it was even a $10 bill that was counterfeit. Maybe he actually didn't do anything wrong. But the thing is I don't know what kind of record he has. I don't know if he's afraid of going to jail for fear that it's going to look worse on his record. But he's 46 years old. But right, he was not a threat. That's the most important thing here. I could sit here all day and I could talk about his police record. I could talk about his run-ins with the law in the past, but here we are and we're looking at a video. We just watched a video that ended literally the moments just before he was killed. So in moments just before death, we're seeing him that he seems to be somewhat resisting in a sense, but not in a violent manner. He seems to be kind of just throwing himself on the ground and saying, I'm not getting in that car. Well, he was in, that was the thing, is he was in the back seat of a regular car. I mean, they pulled him out of the car. Like I said, when you have a bunch of people in a car and you have a wall right there, this is not the first time I've seen that. I don't know exactly what police procedure is, but that's not the first time that I've seen police, or it's happened to me more than once, where they pull me out of a car and they say, hey, stand right over there or sit right there on that curb. And it puts you in a less threatening position. You don't have a seat to reach under. You don't have a glove box to reach into. You don't have a console to reach into. You don't have in-between seats to reach into. So, you know, they want to have you in a position where they could see your hands, which is understandable. That makes perfect sense to me. But where we're at right now, people, from what I understand is this, and I want to know, I want to, what is the name of this guy again? This shitbag. Derek Chauvin. And I'm going to read this out loud, guys. The officer at the center, this is a something from Bring Me the News, which is seems to be an independent news source. It says here, the officer at the center of George Floyd's death has been identified as Derek Chauvin, a 44-year-old who is a 19-year veteran with Minneapolis Police Department. The officer of lawyer Tom Kelly confirmed it is representing Chauvin, who has been identified as the officer who had his knee placed on the neck of Floyd. Yeah, this is definitely a independent media source, seeing as there's typos galore here. Who later died at Hennepin County Medical Center on Monday evening. Kelly represented Geronimo Yanez, the officer who was acquitted in the 2016 killing of Philando Castile. Chauvin was fired on Tuesday along with 3 other officers. Here's what we know as of Wednesday morning about the officer. He has been involved in 3 officer-involved shootings. That of Wayne Reyes in 2006, and Ira Latrell Tolles in 2008, and Leroy Martinez in 2011. In the 2006 incident, Chauvin was one of the 6 officers to fire a weapon in the death of Wayne Reyes. Police and Reyes pointed a sawed-off shotgun at officers after stabbing 2 people. In the Tolles case, Chauvin shot and wounded Tolles after. So in a situation like the one I just read, he's going to be looked at in the department like a hero. So if it went down the way it's described here, that's how that stuff goes down. This guy just stabbed two people and then he points a sawed-off shotgun at a bunch of cops, so they take him down. It's textbook justifiable homicide. So we don't know. In the Tolles case, Chauvin shot and wounded Tolles after the suspect tried to grab the officer's gun. Now that's alleged. I read that somewhere else where they were saying that he stated that he tried to grab his gun, or tried to grab another officer's gun. Police had been called to report of a home invasion. Martinez was shot in the torso after being chased by police in the Little Earth housing complex in South Minneapolis, with Chauvin one of the 5 officers involved. Pictures circulating online claiming to show Chauvin at a President Trump rally and wearing an offensive red cap are not accurate. Yeah, so this is one of those things. People are trying to make this. Now it is a political issue. I'm not going to try to deny that, but it's irresponsible to spin it to meet a particular political agenda, in my opinion. What we have here is not a political issue as much as it is simply a social issue, a very serious issue that needs to be addressed, and things need to start changing. And I'm going to get into that in a second. The Pioneer Press reported that Chauvin had been given a Medal of Valor by the department in 2008 for an incident involving a man armed with a gun. So this guy, he's considered a hero in his department. I mean, blows my mind. In April 2005, Chauvin and Officer Terry Nutter were involved in a car chase when the suspect vehicle slammed a car containing Darwin Vivar, 28, and Clevar Jacome, 35, who died instantly. Another person in the car, Everett Vivar, 35, died a few days later. Twin Cities journalist Tony Webster reports that Chauvin received 2 letters of reprimand in 2007 and was orally reprimanded in 2003 on multiple occasions for allegations of using a demeaning tone and derogatory language. A further 7 complaints were made against him, with the cases closed with no action taken. He met his wife, a Hmong American woman, and I would have never heard of that word if I'm not a very educated guy, guys. And I would have never known that word if I hadn't seen the movie Gran Torino as many times as I did. But that is a nationality. I'm pretty geographically challenged, so I apologize if I come off as ignorant. It's not so much ignorance as it is just lack of education. When he met his wife, a Hmong American woman, when he noticed her at a hospital when he brought suspect in for health check before arrest and returned to ask her out. According to the Washington Times, she said, "Under all that uniform, he's just a softie." They live in Oakdale, joining the estimated 94% in 2014 of Minneapolis police officers who live outside the city. This tweet lists the complaints filed against Chauvin and Officer To Tao, who is the only other of the 4 officers involved in Floyd's death identified so far. It doesn't have that here actually. So we have all this information on him. And again, all I know is what we saw here we just saw. Now, I could sit here and search for the footage. I'm glad that it didn't show that footage because I was trying to prepare myself for that. I don't need to see this footage. There are pictures clear as day of this man or this officer, or this poor excuse for a man who has his knee on top of Mr. Floyd's neck. And while he has, this is what really got me about this photograph, this still photograph. First of all, he's looking dead into the camera when this picture is taken. His knee is in this man's neck. It is reported that he did it for up to 7 or 8 minutes, which is a very long time to have someone's knee in your neck with their weight on it. But the most disturbing thing I saw about that image, besides this man wearing a badge and a uniform and being in a position of authority, was how demeaning this picture looked to me in his actions. He had his knee placed on this man's neck and his hands were in his pockets. He was relaxing and looking straight at the camera. This man was he had the actions of someone who sat there and was enjoying putting his knee into this man's neck and hearing this man say, "I can't breathe. My neck hurts. My stomach hurts. I can't breathe." Yeah, I mean, I'll if I can find, let me see if I can find a photograph of this shitbag. See what we got here. Hold on. See what we got here. Because I know I saw that picture myself. And there we go. There it is right here. Give me 1 second, guys, and I will share this with you so you can see it. Is this? No, hold on. I don't think it could show me or let me do full screen. But as you can see right here, this guy's hands are in his pockets. Or no, actually they're not. Okay, correction, guys. I apologize. He's wearing black gloves and they're blending in with his pants. So that's my mistake, guys. I misinterpreted this photograph. But as you can see, his knee is in, I mean, it seems to fit that groove perfectly between his jawbone and his shoulder. That is all of his weight, showing that all of his weight from that position is on this man's neck. And he's completely incapacitated. Mr. Floyd is completely incapacitated here. So his hands, as far as what I saw, his hands were not in his pockets. They were resting up against his pants, up against his leg, such as this. But he had black gloves on, which I did not see. And they were blended in with the navy of his pants. Yeah, Hope Addis, you could see as I could make a mistake like that. I do apologize. But here we are. So we have witnesses with their cell phones out. Like I said, big difference between the Rodney King situation and this one, in the sense that the chances of catching the Rodney King situation on video were slim to none, Can you imagine how often this was happening in the LAPD at the time? Now, it probably didn't happen all that often, but according to bystanders, according to people who often have run-ins with the police, they're very quick to say, hey, police beat on me. They grabbed me and they beat on me. At the time, that was the case. But then after that, there started to be a little bit more. The reason why there was so much backlash about that and so much attention was drawn was what? Was it the fact that somebody videotaped it? See, because that's the easy answer. That's the easy answer. But I'm going to do you one better. I think that the reason why was because these police officers were all charged and they went to trial and they were acquitted. And this infuriated Los Angeles. This literally set Los Angeles on fire. LA rioted, and it was scary. People were just wrecking everything they could get their hands on. And what that was people, the people of Los Angeles saying, this is wrong. This is something that we cannot stand for. People's neighbors, family members being arrested and doing years at a time for a nonviolent narcotics charge. Locked up with rapists and murderers. And these men, because they're white police officers, got acquitted for a crime that was clearly them beating this defenseless man on videotape. So here we have a similar situation, though. Here we have people who, whenever anybody starts misbehaving, it's not just police. Anytime some drama goes down, I mean, I do live streams just for fun here, guys. I do live streams all the time of footage taken by people with their phones, just shooting whatever. They just pull out their phones and they're like, oh, look at this person's acting a fool, man. Let's boop, and then they film it and then it goes viral all over the internet. But here you have these officers don't seem to care that they're being filmed. Now that's what's funny to me. That I find very, very interesting. How delusional are you about your sense of power that you honestly don't care that someone is filming you? Someone has their cell phone filming you right to your face as your knee is on top of this man's neck and he's complaining that he can't breathe. How untouchable do you think you are? Because that's the biggest issue here. We're talking about somebody who completely and totally disrespects the point of why we have and need police officers. I remember the LA resident. Now, I was living in Miami. I was on the completely different side of the country when the Rodney King LA riots happened. But I mean, it was all over the news. It was like COVID-19 at the time. You turn on a news station and they were just showing live footage of people burning, wrecking, and looting. And it was, and it went on for days. It went on for days. So, and right now, I mean, Minneapolis better do something, man. Minneapolis better do something. Because let me do this real quick. Okay, so actually, is this live? Sorry, my PC's a little slow, guys. But I think what we've got going on right here is an activist organization that's happening right now. So let's look at this.
Our humanity and injustice. If you go from a historical perspective, ever since that we were brought over here as involuntary residents, we have been murdered. It's no secret. The laws have never protected us. Minnesota.
All right, this is live, people.
Basically the New South. Minnesota had lynchings, and what we saw that officer do to Mr. Floyd was a knee lynching.
That's right.
It was a knee lynching. He had his hands in his pocket, as casual as he could be. The old saying of no justice, no peace. Well, for our community, we have always been at peace in our hearts because of our faith, because we know who control our future. But we are also at peace when we know and we can identify injustice. We are at peace when we speak truth to power and with our feet march as those young people did. It is unfortunate that our trauma and our frustration had to be taken out in destruction. But our lives have always been destroyed. The building and the cars were ours because we are the taxpayers. So we don't want young people to destroy what already belongs to them. We want them to understand that as their parents who are taxpayers, that they are the employees of the city of Minneapolis. It's our tax money.
Now, the reason
So
she's
we want
saying
them
this
to
stuff,
protect
guys,
what belongs to them. They have the right to march and to speak and to protest. If you look back in the history in the early
see, I
and
love this.
50s,
She's trying to avoid trying to lead people to
who were in
not
the
riot,
modern civil day marches,
because these men have yet to be charged.
who were jailed and bussed. So we want them to know that they have power, and that power comes on high from their creator God. And he's going to continue to give us the strength that he's given us since we've been here. They tried to kill us through all kinds of ways, through drugs in our community, through guns, through promoting self-hatred. But what we stand for, injustice, we fight against justice.
Right.
Amen.
Today with us is the new appointed national president of AIM. Brother Frank will speak next.
Frank Perro, F-R-A-N-K-P-A-R-O. As Spike said, I'm the new national president of the American Indian Movement and the chairman of the American Indian Movement Grand Governing Council. My uncle Clyde, due to his health conditions, this last Sunday, turned over the reins of the American Indian Movement to myself and my executive director, Lisa Bellinger. I'm watching today, just as the American Indian Movement has been for 52 years, supporting our brothers, the black brothers on the north side. We'll support the Muslims, we'll support the Somalis, we'll support anybody who is having injustices done by this government, by this state, by this city, by the police, anybody else. But Brother Spike said a few minutes ago about the news media. Houston covered none of the speeches yesterday. Why? Because in your minds, violence is the news. Peacemaking is not the news.
Wow.
There's something wrong there. The American Indian movement, we've been all over the country fighting injustices, defending our rights, and we always end up right back here in Minneapolis. 52 years ago, American Indian movement was brought together because of police brutality. They would take us down to the river and beat us with their clubs. Housing. There was no Indian housing. We couldn't get rented.
You imagine how hard it was for these
there was no schools
for this
We
culture
created our own schools. We got universities. We got colleges. We
in
got
that area.
elementary schools. We got high schools.
Nobody thinks about it. Nobody talks about Minnesota
What
like
I'm getting
this.
at now is 52 years later, we're right back to square one. Instead of just beating us up, they're shooting us, killing us. Housing, we got housing problems still. Education, we got education problems still. When we say justice, we mean real justice, as in arresting and charging those 4 officers with at least second-degree murder. All 4 of them.
See, I like that this man is a realist and he's not overly emotional in delivering his message.
You got 2 criminals.
He wants justice,
They do something.
however served. He'll take
And
the
criminal
second-degree
A
murder charge.
is out in the car waiting. He's the drive.
But will everyone
guy.
else? That's the question.
Criminal B, he's in the store and he shoots somebody. When they get arrested, caught and arrested and charged, the guy in the car is also going to be charged with murder. He was complicit to the crime.
That's right. That's right.
Again, I'll just say that when I speak, my word is on this flag. That flag is just as much important to me as my traditional pipe.
Wow.
It's like you folks, Christians,
I agree,
swear
Wicked
on the
Witch.
Bible.
I agree.
When I speak in front of that flag, you know it's the truth. It's heartfelt, and we want justice. I understand it's not going to happen, boom, today, tomorrow, but 2 or 3 days at the most. They've had plenty of time to arrest these officers. Arrest them and charge them. Big wish. Thanks.
Our next speaker has been pretty much a community leader years far back as I can remember. And there's almost nothing he has not tried to help us do over the years. And I'm bringing forth Babington Johnson.
Alfred Babington Johnson, BABINGTON-JOHNSON. Karen Mitchell, historic legislature for our community, had a motto, had a slogan he would always lift up, Spike. He said, "A luta continua." The struggle continues. That's the truth of life. That's the truth of our people. The struggle continues. But we are at a historic moment here, in my mind. There was an outlandish act of cruelty and inhumanity that occurred at 8 o'clock 2 nights ago. when a man in our community was murdered. Not the first time. Someone once said, it's not that racism is more prevalent now, it's just being televised. We saw in humanity a murder take place.
Can you imagine what this man has seen in his lifetime?
When all is said and done, they say there's a lot more said than done, and that's been a problem for a long time. But when there is an advance, we have to be able to recognize advance when it occurs. So some historic things have happened here that I want to celebrate. First of all, our chief of police, Madera Arredondo, a black man born in Minneapolis, serving here and acting like he knows who he is, performed admirably. When this situation occurred, he immediately initiated 2 other investigations, the FBI and the BCA, called him in. Then early the next morning, he called the African American leadership to come and consult with him. At that place, not just these historic civil rights leaders, Spike and Tyrone and
now, again, guys, this is live, so it's going to kind of cut in and out. I apologize for that. So I don't know exactly what's going on here. And it's Facebook Live, too. Facebook Live sucks, people. I think we all know that.
And Brian Heron, we had preachers there, but there were people there at that table that we don't always seem to get along with. But it didn't happen then. There was a unity that is to be celebrated that happened that day and here. And so this situation of police brutality will never change unless there's some consequences felt by the police. It won't change. So as Spike is going out, what was historic was as we met with the chief and the mayor and said there had to be some consequences. Surely, as Tyrone has pointed out, the court cases are going to go on, the investigations go on. But in the meantime, is there anything that can be done? Yes. So an ask was made of the chief and the mayor. Let these folk know this is not acceptable behavior and there's consequences.
Absolutely.
And the chief, when he spoke, said,
and that's all the people want.
Employees.
It's all they wanted back when this happened with Rodney King.
Said, I support the chief's decision. And I want to say to our young people who are out here, we have to understand the advances when they occur and reinforce them. Celebrate that progress as we continue to look for justice in this situation. Thanks for calling together, Spike.
We're going to stop for a minute, let those cars out, and then we'll keep going. So just those 2 there need to move up. Let those cars go. They got more important business preferences.
See, that's all the people of Minneapolis want, just like the people of Los Angeles. All they wanted was just justice. They wanted these officers held accountable for their actions. And I love how this gentleman focused on the positive.
Sorry about that.
Focused on how positive it is that all of these people got together peacefully and spoke rationally about this problem,
one more thing as soon as these cars go out.
and are kindly asking, yet no, I should say they're kindly demanding justice. They're not being threatening. Excuse me.
All right,
they're not being
ready?
threatening in any way whatsoever.
Are you ready?
Even the woman who spoke
This
up
is going to be the
first.
last of our speakers, unless someone back there wants to say something. But whatever, we're going to get to questions and then we're done. All right?
The woman who spoke first, she was saying, she was trying to discourage any riots from taking place, saying, this is your,
Let you hear the trauma of a
this
child.
is your city. It makes no sense to destroy what's yours. You pay taxes on this. That's not going to be the way to go.
My name is Lazia Smith. It's spelled L-A capital Z-Y-A. And I represented my generation and the younger generations to come. To see that another black man is being killed by cops, it caused emotional trauma and distress to see that another person is being killed. He was on the ground. He wasn't trying to resist. He yells for his mama. Who yells for their mama if they're not in trouble? His nose started to bleed. That should have been the first sign to stop that. But this young generation already knows. If you're African American, you can get killed just for walking down the street. If a Caucasian child or adult would wave to the cops, they would probably wave back. But if an African American child or adult waved to the police, they'd probably say we had a gun in our hands or we were threatening their life. But one thing that was so good is that they're fired. But now, they need to go to court. And they need to be prosecuted for taking someone away from their family. Children need to have an example that justice is still here. The cops are supposed to protect you. But right now, we're just saying that they're killing you. There shouldn't be no songs called saying F the cops. There should be songs saying we love the cops. But of course, that's probably in the Caucasian neighborhoods.
Wow.
Because in our neighborhoods, we already know from the young beginning, our parents had to tell us, sadly, that you got to be careful. Don't draw attention to yourself. Don't be suspicious. But suspicion can just be walking down the street, doing anything. As a younger generation, we see that all these men are getting killed, and sometimes it is women. But we need to see that the cops can actually protect them instead of hurting the community that they swore to protect. For a child to see this happening, it's almost like a routine. Every couple of months, there's another black man or woman being killed, and the cops being not fired. But I'm glad in this case they was fired, and I'm glad we had witnesses. Because even if we do have witnesses, they can still get off. Our generation, my generation, we have so much ideas. And I don't want that idea to kill the cops to be in our heads. Because that's going to be the idea when we grow up. We need to have the idea that the police will be there to protect and serve us like they said they would. Instead of killing us while we're on the ground, we're standing up, or we're just living our lives. I hope that this man will be prosecuted and put in prison. This generation needs to know that these cops are here to protect us, not to kill us. African American children need to know that they can walk down the street, wave their hand at cops, be themselves without getting shot or killed. And that's what we really need to focus on.
He said, how old are you? I think that piece is important because this is the future they're looking at. I can't thank her enough for doing this. Babington and I were at a press conference before and she did it for us. But I want to promise her and all the young people here, the men that I know, as long as we have breath in our life, we will fight for our children. I don't even have to ask any one of them. They've proven themselves. Now, one more brother wants to say something, and you can ask us anything you want. Come on up, brother.
My name is Ken Rance, and that's Kenrance. Okay, all right.
You can pull it up if you need to. It bends it down. No, I don't want to mess it up.
Okay. So, as a former panelist for the Minneapolis Police Department's Conduct Review Panel,
Wow.
I have ruled on many officer misconduct cases. But of all of the cases and all of the video I've ever seen. The murder of George Floyd was the most egregious, excessive use of force that I've ever witnessed. But it wasn't what just took place on 36 in Chicago. It wasn't witnessed just in South Minneapolis. It just wasn't witnessed in Minneapolis. It just wasn't witnessed in Hennepin County. It just wasn't witnessed in the state of Minnesota or the United States of America or the North American continent, but the world witnessed murder. And what they witness is truth. So I strongly encourage all of our other white brothers and sisters to demand that justice be served. And now, as a tax-paying citizen of Hennepin County, we must demand that our district attorney, Mike Freeman, do what he has sworn an oath to do, to uphold the rule of law, to prosecute, and to bring those officers to justice. And the reason why is because we all witnessed the truth. And the truth was murder.
Now, before I go anywhere, the pastors want to say anything before we take questions? We want to go ahead and take questions. All right. Any questions you have, we'll take them.
Okay, I'm not gonna go over the questions here, guys.
Spike.
I'm gonna have to close this soon, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and share my thoughts on what we just watched. That to me was one of the most beautiful things that I've ever seen. Watching that little girl, I mean, it brought tears to my eyes as well. Wicked Witch, to see someone so young yet have so much wisdom to share that and say, we need to get that narrative out of our heads that cops are the enemy. We can't go into this with that narrative in our minds that cops are the enemy. We have to be able to trust the cops. So it's on us to hold a higher standard to them and take responsibility for their actions. They need to be held accountable. Those particular police officers need to be held accountable, and all police officers going into the future need to be held accountable to a standard that we, the citizens who pay taxes, set. Those, again, are civil servants. Police officers are civil servants that work for us, and we need to trust them to be able to protect us and follow the rules of engagement when it comes to executing procedures. And I saw nothing but positive coming from that. I mean, these were people, I didn't see anger. Now, you know, they were angry, and rightfully so. Everyone who spoke up, they were all angry, but they were so responsible. They realized how important the message that they were sending was. And hopefully the people of Minneapolis will take this to heart. And no matter what happens going into the future, rioting and destroying their own city is not going to be the way to go. That's not going to bring positive attention. And that little girl speaking up to me was so inspiring. And what we need are other police officers to speak up. What we need are what the people of Minneapolis need right now is to be inspired by other police officers who are brave enough to speak up against things like that. How commendable was it for that man to stand up and give praise to his chief of police for handling things the way that they felt it should have been handled. But now they're asking for more, and they're not asking for too much. They're asking for what's right. And what's right is to bring charges against these officers. These men should be accountable for what they've done. They took a man's life. And right now, there's attention on this incident from all over the world. All over the world. There are people in other countries that are outraged by this. Well, Breakfast Club fan, I disagree with you. To say that these things could be avoided, I mean, again, sadly, we cannot expect something like this to happen overnight. This kind of change, it takes that first step of people seeing a situation like this. And yes, it's argued. It's a valid argument that this has happened over and over and over again. But the fact that this is happening at a particular time in this country, in the world, where things are where they have never been before. These times right now, the way that they are is uncharted territory, and we're all learning how to handle it a little bit more and a little bit more. And it's seeming to me like something like this, there's no room for it anymore. We're not going to stand for it. Because here we are. We come from a true crime community where we follow true crime cases. How is it that this is not considered the most important true crime case to follow right now? Do we not want justice? As true crime followers, do we not want justice? Is that not why we follow true crime cases? So these men need to be charged. And yes, they need to be subject to a fair trial. Absolutely. They have the right to a fair trial, just like anyone else. They have the right to a fair trial. Aaron Torres, what I mean, uncharted territory, I mean the COVID-19 situation that's happening worldwide. I'm glad you asked, so that anybody else who misunderstands when I say something like that, you understand what I mean. These times right now that we're living in, definitely uncharted territory. We're trying to figure out how to handle certain things that are happening in this world. And these things that should have been resolved a long time ago is still a problem. Steps aren't being taken to resolve this at this point. We have to deal with this bullshit still. Come on. So no, racism and police brutality, that's not uncharted territory. I agree with you, and I'm not saying that it is. I'm saying that this pandemic, the way the world's reacting to it happening just before an election, all kinds of things that are happening. We've got one president with the things that he's accused of, and then we've got the one person that the other side is counting on to fix the situation. Their only hope is a guy who can't even speak correctly. And the latest, he says something borderline racist himself. And I'm being nice by saying borderline. And on top of that, He's accused of touching women inappropriately. Now, how much of this is mudslinging from the other side in order to discredit a candidate? Who knows? I'm not getting into all that. What I'm saying, though, is the world is going crazy all around us. And this old shit is still a problem, and we can't figure out a way out of it. We're dealing with this stuff right now, and we haven't solved this problem yet. That makes me ashamed. That makes me ashamed of the society I live in. It doesn't give. Who gives a shit what the media wants, though, Lufa? And I'm not attacking you here. I'm just, I'm reacting to your statement here. You're saying, don't I think that the media wants riots? Probably. The media, of course, wants riots. The media wants as much turmoil as they can cover. Sure. But that's not the question here. The media definitely wants riots. The media wants anything they can get their hands on. The media wants the dirtiest possible story they can get their hands on. But the issue is not what the media wants right now. The issue is what we want. What do you want as a citizen? Aaron, I don't have an answer to that. Let's see. Your question here is, and welcome, because I don't think I'm familiar with you, but I'm glad that you're here in my chat. This is a different time for me. I'm usually late night. So you're saying, can you, playing devil's advocate even, how can anyone say that these men should not be arrested? How can the mayor stand there and say that these men should not be arrested? Fired them. Now, I listened to the mayor address in a press conference yesterday, late last night, actually. I listened to him address the press. At no point did I actually hear him. Allowed I missed it. I don't know. But at no point did I actually hear him say that these men should not be arrested. He allowed, this is how democracy works, people. This is why, quarantine regulations are left up to governors and mayors instead of the federal government, because we live in a democracy and each state is allowed to govern themselves, and there's a chain of command in the way that these things work. It was the chief of police's decision to terminate these officers, and the mayor basically went up there and said, I support your decision. So now it's going to be up to the district attorney to bring charges up against these men. So, and I don't doubt that that's going to happen. I'm curious as to especially with all the attention this is getting now. That's a political nightmare. So I don't see how they're not going to bring charges against these men. But this is we're living in a time right now where this is definitely something that shouldn't be tolerated. And a message needs to be sent out that we have problems that we've never dealt with before, and now we're trying to deal with them. So why hasn't this problem been solved yet? How can we handle the direction the world is going in